Trust you've already seen our review of the all-new Hyundai i20 Petrol. The version of the Hyundai i20 Petrol with us today is slightly more special because it sits a few notches up on the power scale. This one's powered by a 1-litre 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine that makes 120 horsepower. Now that 120 HP figure makes it the most powerful hatchback in the segment. So, should you be interested? A turbo petrol variant is a first for the i20. The engine is the familiar 1-litre turbocharged direct injection unit that's offered on a whole host of Hyundais now. On the i20, it makes 120 HP and 172 Newton meters of torque. Gearbox options for this engine include an IMT or a clutchless manual transmission and a dual clutch transmission as on our test car. Before you ask, there's no manual for this version. So how is the i20 Turbo? Let's start with how it feels at town speeds. We already know that Hyundai's 1.0 Turbo GDI engine isn't the liveliest at low revs, but the DCT does help here. The DCT does a good job of masking this 1-litre turbo petrol engine's weak bottom end. It keeps you in the right gear and you won't have any problem maintaining momentum or keeping up with the flow of traffic. Path throttle responses are good and you'll also like the low engine noise levels in town. The engine also runs nice and quiet in town, but open it up and you will hear that 3-cylinder thrum. And there is reason to open it up. You feel a nice tug from about 2000 RPM or so, and the engine pulls pretty cleanly in the mid-range, and it's really quite enjoyable. The 7-speed dual clutch gearbox also comes into play when you drive harder, but there are some points of note. The i20's dual clutch transmission is more smooth and easygoing than quick and snappy in its shifts. It's not slow by any means, but it's also not quite as lightning quick as a DSG unit. Sport mode for the transmission does speed things up to an extent, and the gearbox is also nice and responsive to manual shifts via the gear lever. Sadly, paddle shifters that would have added another layer to driver engagement are missing. The i20 makes light work of overtakings but also gives its best in the mid-range. If you extend the engine, it'll rev to about 6,300 RPM or so, but the thing is, some of that rush that you just expect from a car with sporty pretensions is missing on the top end. In our preliminary test, the i20 Turbo DCT did the 0 to 100 kph dash in 12.56 seconds, which is far from Hyundai's claimed 9.9 second time. The time is also a second off of what we managed with the Hyundai Venue Turbo DCT that uses the same engine and gearbox combo. Shifting focus to the dynamics. The i20 is a big step up over its predecessors in the area of dynamics. Now the steering is smooth, it turns in quite neatly, and handling in general is quite tidy. But this is not quite the sporty car it's being made out to be. Drive a bit hard into the corners and you'll find the car will wash wide. There is grip from the chassis, but the tires don't hold on gamely enough, and there's quite a bit of body roll too. All said, it's a pleasant car to drive rather than an out-and-out exciting one. If it's long distances you'll be doing routinely, it's the i20 diesel with an ARAI rated fuel economy of 25.2 kpl that should be the version of interest for you. And there's more to the i20 diesel than the promise of good economy. Hyundai's latest 1.5-litre diesel engine has found application on a whole host of Hyundai and Kia models already, and it's just as likable on the new i20 as well. Now this is not an outright punchy engine, but what you will like this 100 horsepower version for is its flexibility. Now the build of speed from low RPMs is rather nice, and there is a slight bump in power around 2000 rpm, and that power stays with you till about 4000 rpm, so there is quite a wide band to play in. Not that you'll need to, but you can wind the engine to 4800 rpm or so. The flip side of extending the engine is a jump in noise levels and also a gravelly note from the engine bay. Kept spinning in its comfort zone though, the engine runs relatively quiet for a diesel. In fact, on a relaxed cruise, it's road and tire noise that you'll hear more of. The pleasant spread of power makes this an easy hatchback to live with both in town and on the highway, and the standard fit 6-speed manual gearbox only helps to this end. It's fun going through the gears, and as an added plus, the clutch is also well weighted. In our preliminary performance test, the i20 diesel did the 0 to 100 kph dash in a commendable 11.15 seconds. The diesel not only proved faster to the ton than the DCT, but also has the edge in dynamics. Hyundai's diesel cars are traditionally better set up than the petrol ones, and that's something that's true on the new Hyundai i20 as well. This diesel steering is quite well set up. There's reasonable weight to it, there's a smoothness to the steering that you like, it turns in quite neatly, and generally you will like that user-friendly demeanor to the new i20 diesel. The i20 diesel feels more sure-footed than the petrol one as well. When you're out on a long distance journey, you'll appreciate the i20's newfound big car feel. Ride quality is well judged, the suspension is nicely damped, and even up and down movements are really well contained. The i20 diesel also rounds off the bumps better than the stiffer setup i20 turbo. Of the other things, frontal visibility is good, and you also get a good view of the world behind through the mirrors. It's just that the fabric seats on the Hyundai i20 are softly cushioned and don't quite provide the support you'd want on a long drive. As for the seats at the back, where the i20 comes good as a hatchback for the entire family is when you consider the space on offer at the back. Now, I am just under 6 feet tall. The front seat is set to my driving position, and as you can tell, there is a considerable amount of knee room on offer. Seat comfort is good. I also like that someone my size will not have a problem with headroom. And as an added plus, you also get a nice fold-down armrest. If there's something to bring up, there are no dedicated cup holders for the rear seat passengers. Luggage room is a decent 311 litres, and while you can fold the rear seat backrest down, there's no seat split. We've already covered the i20 in detail before, so here's a quick recap. Styling is in line with the latest from Hyundai, which means it's edgy and also polarizing. Z-shaped LEDs at the back are one of many distinctive design elements. The interior is well thought out with the crisp 10.25-inch touchscreen and digital instrument cluster in clear sight. Dual-tone body paint versions also get red detailing, while leatherette upholstery is exclusive to the turbo versions. However, the i20's cabin is not as premium as it ought to be. The all-black theme looks dull, and there are a lot of hard plastics, such as on the glove box lid and window sill. The absence of soft materials on the door pads is also disappointing for what is a pricey car. i20 prices start at 6.8 lakh rupees, while the fully loaded DCT costs 11.18 lakh, and the best spec diesel costs 10.6 lakh. For its part, Hyundai has gone to town with features, with top spec versions leading the segment with 6 airbags, tire pressure monitors, a 10.25-inch touchscreen, and even a crisp sounding Bose sound system. A sunroof, connected car tech, LED headlights, and an onboard air purifier are some of the other features Hyundai expects will lure buyers to spend big on the new i20. As a product, the i20 takes a step up, especially in the areas of space, comfort, and driving manners, with the diesel being the nicest to drive. The turbo petrol DCT has its appeal too, though more as an upmarket hatchback with a fun side rather than as an all-out sporty hatchback. Whether buyers will see the new i20 as a no-compromise premium hatchback or find their money better spent on a like-priced compact SUV will eventually determine if the latest model can build on the success of its predecessor and shape the direction of the segment as a whole.